If you're watching this video, you've probably already seen the Lies of P after credits scene. And if you haven't, yo. The scene does quite a bit for such a short clip. From teasing Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz in future content, to establishing Giangio as the real-life alchemist Paracelsus. This scene had me so excited for the future of Lies of P, but it also raised some questions. If you're anything like me, one of the first things you wondered about was, where the hell is he going? Krat Central Station has its train information plastered all over the place, and it's stuck showing its final schedule from when the city was locked down because of the disaster. We are given a time, train number, train name, destination, track, and status of the 7 most recent trains. Every train going out has been canceled, and the one coming in, the Blue Ferry, the train we wake up in at the beginning of the game, has reached its end as well. I've spent more time than I care to admit trying to figure out some hidden secret with the time and numbers of these trains, so if anyone has come across a good theory involving those, I'd appreciate the closure if you'd care to share. But what I'd mostly like to focus on for this video is the destinations. Dacia and Saint Marien. It seems most likely that Dacia refers to an ancient kingdom in southeastern Europe, mostly in modern-day Romania, more specifically centered around Transylvania. This might imply some alternative history where the Romans didn't conquer the Dacian kingdom, or it's a fictional city Lies of P is adding in the region that is named for the Old Kingdom. Either way, I'd like to focus on the pop culture implications the geographical area invokes. When I say Transylvania, the first thing that comes to mind is probably Rocky Horror Picture Show. Just kidding. Dracula. It's Dracula. I probably don't need to explain this, but Dracula is a late 19th century gothic horror novel by Bram Stoker about a vampire named Count Dracula who calls a castle in Transylvania a home. He's been depicted in an insane amount of media since his creation, and the character is often associated with real-life historical figure Vlad the Impaler, often being given the first name Vlad in his depictions. I would be absolutely stunned if Dracula, or at the very least vampires, don't come up in future Lies of P content. Besides the possible geographical references to his home, he checks some important boxes I think makes him likely to be included. He's immortal. He originates from a novel published roughly the same time as Pinocchio and the Wizard of Oz, and most importantly, the character is public domain, making him free to use. I also believe we've already been introduced to our first vampire, and it's only a matter of time before the story expands on that. Plus, I'm dying to see P running around killing vampires a la one of my favorite graphic novels, Pinocchio, Vampire Slayer. If you've never heard of it, check it out. Pinocchio tells lies to make his nose grow to make steaks for killing vampires. It's fantastic. And if vampires aren't enough excitement for you, Dracula and Dacia have ties to another fantasy staple. Dragon! The dragon was the symbol of the Dacian kingdom, and the etymology of Dracula is tied directly to it as well. The name is derived from the word Dracul, which originally was meant to translate as dragon. Vlad the Impaler's father Vlad took the surname when he joined the Order of the Dragon, a real-life chivalric order, and of course passed it on to his son. A very interesting bit about the Order of the Dragon is an Ouroboros is part of their insignia. This could tie them to Lies of P's alchemists, as their emblem contains one as well. Paracelsus was even enthralled enough with the symbol to make a weapon based on it. Further, we still haven't seen a Lies of P version of the serpent with a smoking tail from the original Pinocchio story. I'm thinking we've got a dragon, or some other huge serpent, coming in the future. On top of this, Transylvania has kind of become a de facto spooky place, so maybe we'll get some classic horror characters like Frankenstein's monster, or werewolves if they dare fly that close to the bloodborne sun. Bringing in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein more than they already have also carries the possibilities of bringing in stories of the real Frankenstein castle, such as the legend of Knight George von Frankenstein and the Dragon, as well as alchemist Johann Conrad Dippel and his Dippel oil. One last reference to Transylvania I'd like to note is that in a Brothers Grimm version of the Pied Piper of Hamelin, the Piper steals 130 children in revenge for getting stiffed on payment. The children are thought to have become the founders of Transylvania. I'd also like to note the parallel here of the Pied Piper with the Land of Toys portion of Pinocchio, where children are lured there by the coachman, but are turned into donkeys and sold instead of founding a settlement. Liza P has yet to do Toyland, so could Dacia be our surrogate Land of Toys? It's also not a crazy stretch to tie the Pied Piper to another public domain character that I would bet money on showing up in Liza P at some point, Peter Pan. So maybe it's Neverland? If we really want to make a speculative leap, we could notice how both characters share initials with an already introduced Liza P's character, Philippus Paracelsus. There are a few options for Saint Marien, and from what I found, the most likely ones point to France or Germany. Let's start with France. The first thing I get when searching is a tiny commune village in central France, and I'm passing on that option as it doesn't seem to have much of a history, and I'm not sure it even existed in the 19th century. Instead, I think it's more likely the city was created with the Abbey of Saint Marianus in Auxerre in mind. In French, Saint Marianus is still called Saint Marien, so the name would match, and the area is quite a bit more storied, populated, and interesting architecturally with cathedrals and crypts in the area if we ever actually went there. It also puts us a bit closer to Paris. Saint Marianus is known as a guardian of animals from disease and attacks, so there would be a bit of starter lore to go with the area. Either way, the stop being deeper in France means a lot of possibilities for future Liza P content. We likely already have one character coming from the area in Belle, who many, including myself, believe her to be Belle from Beauty and the Beast. We know she isn't a Krat native from her questline, and Beauty and the Beast takes place in France, so she likely came from this stop. Although, she may have came from somewhere else beforehand. Combine this with how underutilized she seems to be in Liza P, it does seem like she's being set up to be used more in DLC or a sequel. Beauty and the Beast is my best guess for a baseline for any Liza P content dealing with a French Saint Marien, especially if my Saint Marianus connection works out. In the original novel, animals, well, sort of, serve as the servants of the Beast's castle, as the human servants have been turned to stone to keep them from telling about the curse. I recommend checking it out. It is on par with Pinocchio levels of wild, with fairies, genies, pirates, faking deaths, prophecies, children getting switched at birth. Plus, with all the retellings, there's tons of material to make a Souls-like out of it. And maybe elements of the Disney version will bleed into it, like enchanted furniture. After all, we've already seen Mrs. Potts has a thriving chain of businesses in Krat. But there are so many iconic stories set in France that characters could be borrowed from or referenced, such as The Hunchback of Notre Dame, The Three Musketeers, The Man in the Iron Mask, The Phantom of the Opera, A Tale of Two Cities, Joan of Arc, The Aristocats, The Count of Monte Cristo. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea isn't set in France, but is very much a French novel, and I think elements of it could come up. There is a roughly 1,000-year-old church in Germany called St. Marien that is the last remaining structure of a Benedictine monastery. What's special about this church with regard to Liza P is that it houses the family crypt and remains of the Baron of Lies, Baron Hieronymus Karl Friedrich Freiherr von Munchausen. Baron Munchausen was an 18th century aristocrat who was known for telling wildly imaginative and embellished stories. This led to a fictionalized version who did the same and bore almost the same name, to be created by Rudolf Erich Rasp. Munchausen syndrome, a disorder that sees a patient fake a disease or symptoms, takes its name from Baron Munchausen. Admittedly, this would be kind of a deep cut, but it's so on brand that it's impossible to ignore. St. Marien being a German city dramatically increases the chances for including all the Brothers Grimm fairy tales in future content, as the two were German themselves. Cinderella, The Frog Prince, Hansel and Gretel, Little Red Riding Hood, Rapunzel, Rumpelstiltskin, Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, The Pied Piper of Hamelin again, which has the opportunity to connect Dacia and St. Marien by a story. Plus, you can just copy and paste everything I said about Frankenstein for Dacia and put it here because the real Castle Frankenstein is in Germany. I'm actually leaning with St. Marien being in Germany over France because of the Baron of Lies connection, and it could be argued Liza P already did Beauty and the Beast, albeit in a very condensed form. But what do you think? Krat Central Station only has 2 listed destinations. While there could be more destinations not shown, it actually makes sense lore-wise for there to be limited cities connected to Krat by rail. Entrance into the city is known to be locked down even before the disaster in order to protect their new ergo-based technologies from espionage. Each track seems to have 2 trains, with the exception of Track C, which only has the Blue Ferry on the schedule. There could be another train on this track that doesn't fit on the schedule, that goes to a 3rd location the devs didn't want to show us yet. Also, with Krat being the way that it is possible that there's a secret private train for extra special people going somewhere else, but there's not really anything right now to support this, and a railway would be a tough thing to hide. There are 3 trains from the schedule that we aren't able to physically account for: Keystone Express, E36, and Star Regional 814. 2 of them go to Dacia, and the other goes to St. Marien. This is still the case after the game, but before moving on to New Game Plus, after Paracelsus has left. We see him leaving Krat on a train in the after-credits scene. I think his destination holds some weight in where Liza P goes next. So which train did he take?